So today we'll start with this topic of arrays and pointers. Now arrays and pointers go in hand with each other. Arrays is dependent upon pointers and pointers helps the concept of arrays a lot internally. So we need to understand how arrays and pointers are related to each other. For that, briefly I'll again tell you about pointers. Pointers, you know, it's a special type of variable. A variable which instead of holding a value holds an address of another variable. Usually a variable is designed to hold a value, but as you know, a pointer variable instead of holding a value stores the address of another variable. In pointers, you know this about star. Star stands for value at address. If you place this star in front of any computer location or address, what star does is it gives you the value stored at that address. So in front of addresses, we put this star just to get the value stored at that particular address. In pointers, we have learned this declaration, int j and int star j. Both of them declare variables for you. This creates an integer variable. This creates an integer pointer variable. The difference is an integer variable stores a value, whereas a pointer variable stores an address. So if you wish to store an integer value, you will be declaring it as int j, and if you wish to store an integer address, then you should be declaring it as int star j. If it's the address of a float variable, then we'll define it as float star j. If it's an address of a character variable, then we'll define it as char star j. So I'll try to relate this concept of arrays with pointers today. Now before we start, I'll give you a very simple thing about integers. We all know integer occupies 2 bytes in the memory. It's a very interesting thing. Some of the compilers, depending upon the operating system, can also have 4 bytes for an integer. What we have is a 2 bytes integer. I am sticking to the conventional method of integer concept that an integer occupies 2 bytes in the memory. But again I say, in some of the operating systems and the compiler, that may give you 4 bytes integer. I am sticking to a 2 bytes integer concept. So, we'll start with arrays and pointers. Now when I define this int a of 10, somewhere in the memory, 20 bytes are reserved for this array. Depending upon the compiler, it may also be 40 bytes, but somewhere in the memory, for this array, such 20 bytes are reserved. It may get created at any location. Just for the sake of example, I have taken some addresses for you. This is the array that got created because of int a of 10. 20 bytes were reserved for this array in the memory. Now, one interesting thing about arrays. Whatever the type of array may be, whatever the dimension of the array may be, or the name of the array may be, remember one important thing. Whenever this is defined, 20 bytes are reserved, and wherever this 20 bytes will be reserved, the starting address, the starting location is always available in the name of array. You may choose to use it, you may choose to ignore this fact, but it remains that the name of array will always contain the starting address. Wherever this array may get created, be assured of one thing, that wherever it is created, name of array will always contain the starting address of the array. So internally, basically it's a pointer variable which contains the address of an array. Second, one more interesting thing, see. If I define a pointer variable, int star ptr, a pointer which contains the address of integer, and if I write down this for you, ptr equals to a. Now when I wrote ptr equals to a is the name of array, and as I said just now, name of array always contains this starting address. Now what I have done here is, I have stored the starting address in a pointer variable called as ptr. This is my pointer variable PTR. It contains the starting address of the array. It contains the starting address PTR. Now one interesting thing about this pointer. All of you know this I plus plus. We have used it very commonly, I plus plus. It increments the value of a variable by 1. If the value of I is originally 10, plus plus will make it 11. If it's 11, plus plus will make it 12. So plus plus is a very common operator which increments the value of a variable by 1. But if I use PTR plus plus instead of I plus plus, things change. This takes you to the next value. This takes you to the next address. See the difference? This takes you to the next value. This takes you to the next address. Now because of that, PTR plus plus has got a very interesting thing. If it contains the address of integer, it will be incremented by 2. If it contains the address of float, it will be incremented by 4. If it contains the address of character, it will be incremented by 1. For a regular integer variable, it's always plus 1. But in case of a pointer, depending upon the pointer, it may get incremented by 2, it may get incremented by 4, it may get incremented by 1. Keeping this in mind, let me try something today. I'll write down a few things for you people. See. A plus 1. Please note this. A that I have written is the name of array. And as I said, name of array will always contain the starting address of the array. That starting address plus 1. Now this plus 1 has to be noted. I am not incrementing some normal number by 1. I am not incrementing a normal integer number by 1. I am actually incrementing the address plus 1. So see what happens is A is the name of array. Name of array contains starting address. So this is actually 6001 plus 1. This 6001, had it been a regular integer number, would have incremented it to 6002. But as we know, the 6001 is an address of integer, so plus 1 gives me 6003. Did you get this point? A plus 1, A is the name of array contains starting address. Address plus 1 is not 6002, but it is 6003 because you should be getting the next address. 6001, next address is 6003. Here if I put a star, as you know, star stands for value at address. So star means value at address 6003, value at address 6003 is 14. Now normally if I ignore arrays and pointers, this number 14 I would have written by A of 1. So I am writing down A of 1 over here. A of 1. Next. A similar sort of thing I'll write for you. A plus 2. I'll repeat everything. A is the name of array contains starting address. In this example, A is the name of array contains the starting address, that is 6001 plus 2. Address plus 2, so you have to jump twice, so that you will be getting 6005. 6005, if I put a star over here, it means value at address 6005. Value at address 6005 is 16. The same number 16 I could have got by writing this, that is A of 2. I can go on writing down this. Let me write down A plus 9. A is 6001 plus 9. Plus 1 is incremented by 2. Plus 2 incremented by 4. Plus 9 will increment by 18, so that becomes 6019. I put a star in front of it. Value at address 6019. Value at address 6019 is 25. The same number 25 I could have got by writing A of 9. So you can see a of 9 gives me 25, star a plus 9 also gives me 25. A of 2 gives me the number 16, so writing star a plus 2 also gives me 16. A of 1 is 14, star a plus 1 is also 14. So here I can derive a relation that a of I that we write for element of an array can be internally written as star a plus I. Can you note the differences in brackets? Here I have written square brackets, whereas there I have written the common rounded brackets. Remember, a2 is 16, star a plus 2 is 16, a1 is 14, star a plus 1 is 14. So in general I have written a of I is nothing but a combination of star a plus I. So I have derived the relation between the array notation of accessing an element and its equivalent pointer notation. A of I is known as the array notation of accessing an element, star a plus I is known as its pointer equivalent. And now for a very interesting fact. Every time you write A of I in any C program, remember one thing. Internally, it is converted from A of I to star A plus I. It never remains A of I. We have seen a few programs where every time inside a loop I have written A of I for the element. Remember this fact for life. A of I, when you write in your program, internally it is converted into star A plus I. It is never A of I. It is internally converted into star A plus I. Secondly, star A plus I can also be written as star I plus A. Because whether I write 2 plus 3 or 3 plus 2, it's going to get me the same thing. So similarly, star A plus I and star I plus A are going to get me the same thing. So I have got three notations of accessing an element. I repeat, I have got three notations of accessing an element. This element can be accessed by writing A of I, can also be accessed by writing star A plus I, can also be accessed by writing star I plus A. One more thing I can do over here. So just now we calibrated A of I as star A plus I. If that is true, then star I plus A should also be I of A. It looks a bit weird, I of A, but even that is a valid option. Why? I told you. Every A of I is converted into star A plus I. So every I of A will be converted into star I plus A, and these two are exactly same. So we have got four notations now. The same element which I used to refer as A of 0 can be also referred as 0 of A. Can also be referred as 1 of A, 2 of A, and so on. The last element will be referred as 9 of A. Let's take one element, 32. This 32 I can write down using various options. See, 32 can be commonly referred as A of 3. 32 can also be referred in pointer notation as star A plus 3. Can also be referred as star 3 plus A, and this can also be referred as 3 of A. So the same element 32 can be referred by four different notations in C language. You have A of 3, star A plus 3, star 3 plus A, and 3 of A. Now, someone may ask you to write down a program related to arrays and pointers. Or someone may ask you to implement pointers in an array-based program. It's very simple. Let's say I am being asked to print an array, normal array printing. 10 elements array I want to print. What do? I use a loop starting from the 0th position, varying till the 9th position, I plus plus, and I print each element individually by writing %d \n A of I. This is how you access each element of the array, by using a loop which varies the position, and each element is accessed individually inside the loop as A of I. Now if I am asked to perform pointer related operations or to print the array using pointers, it's very simple. Simply replace this A of I as star A plus I. We have already generated the formula over here. A of I is in pointer notation represented as star A plus I. Or one more thing, you may be given an array of this form and you may be asked to solve a few things. Like, you may be asked to write down what is A. I told you many times, A is the name of array, will always contain the starting address. So I will be writing down 6001. Or you may be asked to write down A plus 3. Now this is important. A plus 3. A is the name of array 6001 plus 3. Address plus 3 will be incremented by 6. So this becomes 6007. Or you may be asked to solve this star A plus 3. Now there is a trap here. Star A plus 3. Brackets are missing. And in that case, first star A will be solved and then plus 3 will be added to it. So let's calculate this. A is 6001. Star A is value at 6001, that is 7 plus 3 gives me 10. But the things are different if I write down this. Now because of the bracket, A plus 3 is solved first and then star is placed. A is 6001 plus 3 gives me 6007. Value at 6007 here would be 32. Similarly, star 3 plus A is actually A of 3 gives me 32. Similarly, 3 of A is actually A of 3. This also gives me the number 32. So what is important in the whole discussion is what is the relation between the array notation and its pointer equivalent notation. This is the array notation and this is the pointer equivalent notation. What you should be happy about arrays is, or this concept is that an array element can now be referred with 4 different methods. The same 32 can be written as A of 3, can be written as star A plus 3, can be written as star 3 plus A, or it can also be conveniently written as 3 of A. So we have got 4 methods of accessing an element. So this is what arrays and pointers is all about. Thank you. So today we'll see bubble sort. In the last class I taught you about selection sort. Selection sort and bubble sort are quite similar. Their complexity is similar. What we did in selection sort was this. We selected an element compared with elements below it. 0th element was selected, compared with first, second, third, fourth. First was compared with second, third, fourth. Second was compared with elements below it, third and fourth. Third was finally compared with 4. This is called a selection sort. Select an element and compare all elements below it. Today we will see another sorting method that is called as bubble sort. It's a very simple method, bubble sort method. I'll be doing the same thing. See, I'll start with comparing A0 with A1. If the element A0 is greater than A1, then I have to interchange them. But 45,4 is not greater than 55, so I'll keep it as it is. First comparison was A0 with A1. What selection sort does here is it compares the same selected A0 with A2 next. I'll be doing a bit different in bubble sort. I'll compare A1 with A2. A0 with A1. Then A1 with A2. If it's greater, I have to interchange them. So I get 44, 33, 55, 22, 11. A0 with A1, A1 with A2, A2 with A3, 44, 33, 22, 55, 11. A0 with A1, A1 with A2, A2 with A3, A3 with A4. You get 44. 22, 11, 55. So you must have noted, it's not comparing one element with all elements below it, but bubble sort is comparing each element with only its next element. Each ith element only with its I plus 1th element. Each element will be compared with its next element. When I did that from top to bottom, what happened is, on the last position of the array, I got the appropriate element. You must be remembering, in selection sort, I got the appropriate element at the top first and finally at the last. Here it's going to be different. The element that I'll be getting first will be at the bottom of the array, and then gradually raising towards upwards will be getting the smallest element. Because the sorting is taking place from bottom to top, as the bubble rises from bottom to top in water, this sorting is called as bubble sort. So what I did right now, the whole sorting has not been done, but what I did right now is I compared every element only with its next element. So to do this, I'll write down a small logic for you people. This is not the complete selection sort, but what this logic is doing is, it's comparing every element with its next element. Let's see. Each A of j, I have to compare with its next element. So each A of j will be compared with j plus 1. And if it's greater, then again I have to interchange like last time. I'll say A of j equals to A of j plus 1 and A of j plus 1 is equals to 10. I repeat, this is not the whole bubble sort logic, it's a part of the module of bubble sort logic. What this module is doing is, it's comparing each number with its next number. You can see A of j is getting compared with A of j plus 1. This much I have written over here. Let's see. When j is 0, A0 will be compared with A1. When j is 1, A1 will be compared with A2. J is 2, A2 will be compared with A3. J is 3, A3 will be compared with A4. So understand this. This loop of j compares every element with its next element. Now what I have to do is, the same thing that I have done over here, I have to repeat, excluding this one element. So what I'll do is, I'll again start the same comparison. Compare 0 with 1, so you get 33, 44, 22, 11, 55. 0 with 1, 1 with 2. 0 with 1, 1 with 2. So you get 33, 22, 44, 11, 55. 0 with 1, 1 with 2, 2 with 3. So that you get 33, 22, 11, 44 and 55. That means the same loop of j has to be repeated. So the first time it was repeated till this, that is A3 with A4. Now the loop of j has to be repeated A0 with A1, A1 with A2, A2 with A3. So I think first time the loop of j varied from 0 to 3. Next time it has to vary from 0 to 2. Why 0 to 2? A0 with A1, A1 with A2, A2 with A3, A0 with A1, A1 with A2, A2 with A3. Now excluding these two elements, I need to perform the same thing from the starting. Compare 0 with 1, you get 30, 22, 33, 11, 44 and 55. 0 with 1, 1 with 2, 22, 11, 33, 44, 55. So what comparisons we have done? 0 with 1, 1 with 2. So that the loop of j should vary from 0 to 1. 0 with 1 and then 1 with the next element 2. Finally, I need to compare 0 with 1 so that it gets me 11, 22, 33, 44 and 55. So this loop of j is 0. As you can see, the loop of j has to be executed multiple number of times. And because loop of j has to be executed multiple number of times, I'll put an outer loop of I less than equals to 3 I plus plus over here. Now why I have put a loop of I is the loop of j has to be executed multiple number of times, and that can be done by putting an outer loop of I. But as you can see, first time j has to be executed till 0 to 3. Next time 0 to 2. Then next time 0 to 1 and so on. So this has to be 3 minus I. Let's see it from the starting again. I is 0. This loop will vary from 0 to 3. Next time I is 1. This loop will vary from 0 to 2. I is 2. This loop will vary from 0 to 1. Finally, when I is 3, this loop will vary from 0 to 0. So this is already written in front of you. I'll just put an I in front of you. I is 0. What happens when I is 1? What happens when I is 2? What happens when I is 3? Now this can be generalized a bit. This I'll write down as dimension minus 2. And this I'll be writing down as dimension minus 2 minus I. But remember, this has to be A of j compared with its next element, that is j plus 1. Now for descending order, it's the same thing. Instead of A of j greater than A of j plus 1, I can write down A of j less than A of j plus 1. The same array will get arranged in the descending order. So that was selection sort, and this is called as bubble sort.